We begin this special report with a dramatic development in the far north, where the temperature has dropped to minus 35 degrees Celsius. Yet the geopolitical climate there is far more intense than the freezing air. At exactly 3:15 today, in the southern sector of Bear Island, Unit 30 of Commando 9 Group SRS, one of the most elite formations of the British Royal Marines, transmitted its final distress signal before all contact was lost. The team had been deploying a passive electronic observation station, using heavily armored over-snow reconnaissance vehicles in an effort to help seal off Russia's access route to the Atlantic. But in the middle of the mission, their early warning systems were suddenly overwhelmed by massive wideband jamming from an extremely powerful electronic warfare source. Moments later, a localized high-power microwave pulse swept across the area, disabling the vehicle's exposed electronics and optical systems. A final emergency message was sent just before every onboard system was burned out and communications were cut completely. At nearly the same moment, just 40 meters to the south, NATO's distributed acoustic sensing network laid across the seabed also began reporting a cascade of errors. Engineers in Brussels quickly confirmed this was no routine malfunction. Microseismic readings showed that the strategic fiber optic cable linked to the Norwegian early warning station had been severed at coordinates 76 degrees 30 minutes north, 19 degrees 45 minutes east, exactly between Bear Island and mainland Norway. But what truly alarmed Pentagon analysts was the last sonar trace recorded in the area. It did not match the familiar acoustic profile of Yasen M or Boré-class submarines. Instead, the signal operated at an extremely low frequency below 70 decibels, blending almost perfectly into the background noise of Arctic currents and making it nearly impossible to detect with traditional sonar. In other words, something enormous and almost invisible had slipped through Britain's defenses without leaving a clear trace. So what exactly was moving beneath the ice? While NATO was still trying to understand what had happened, the US Navy responded in a way few expected. Quietly and without fanfare, it activated a system that had remained dormant beneath the Arctic ice. A bold move many defense analysts had assumed Washington would avoid. Meanwhile, at NATO's Joint Intelligence and Technical Center, electronic warfare specialists finally succeeded in decoding the last data packet transmitted by Unit 30 Commando. The results were deeply concerning. Spectrum analysis suggested that the British reconnaissance team had been neutralized by a highly coordinated combined arms system operating with microsecond-level timing. Electronic signatures indicated that the source of the wideband jamming matched the 1RL-257 Krasukha 4 system, a platform capable of blinding airborne surveillance assets from distances of up to 300 kilometers. The microwave pulse that destroyed the unit's equipment appeared to have originated from a vertical launch system aboard an Ivan Papanin-class icebreaker. Triangulation placed the source around 50 kilometers east of Bear Island, aligning with the route of a Yuri Ivanov-class intelligence vessel from Project 18280, which had quietly departed the Kola Peninsula 48 hours earlier. By 5:30, Russia's TASS news agency released only a brief statement, saying that the Northern Fleet was conducting routine operations in international waters. But open-source intelligence and satellite tracking suggested the Yuri Ivanov was not acting alone. Analysts increasingly viewed it as the command hub for a large-scale undersea cable disruption operation. The question then became, why now? According to military strategists, the timing points to three major calculations from the Kremlin. First, this appears to have been a preemptive move against NATO's Arctic Sentry operation, which was scheduled to begin today. The mission involved deploying P-8A Poseidon aircraft and laying sensor networks from Svalbard to Tromsø in order to establish broad surveillance coverage across the Arctic. By damaging fiber optic links and disabling seabed monitoring systems the night before launch, Russia may have effectively blinded NATO before the operation could even begin. Second, the broader objective may be to secure the enormous economic value of the Northern Sea route. By 2026, Moscow expects to move 40 million tons of cargo through that corridor, including liquefied natural gas from the Yamal and Shtokman mega projects. From that perspective, maintaining the route as protected internal waters is a top strategic priority. Removing Western surveillance systems would allow Akula-class submarines to escort cargo traffic with far less risk of being detected. Third, this move may have been designed to neutralize Britain's growing military presence in the region. London had recently announced plans to increase troop levels at Camp Viking to 2,000 Royal Marines, aiming to build what it described as a steel barrier in Norway. But through electronic interference and undersea cable disruption alone, Moscow demonstrated that even a large force can be severely weakened once its intelligence and communications links are cut. And finally, the mystery behind that ghost signal below 70 decibels appears to have an answer. Hydroacoustic experts believe it matches Project 10,831, also known as Losharik AS-12. More strikingly, analysts say these platforms may not have been operating alone. Using swarm-style tactics at depths of up to 600 meters, they could target undersea cables and wipe out NATO's maritime awareness across the area. The outcome was unmistakable. Unit 30, Commando, was isolated. The defensive network failed, and Britain's so-called Steel Curtain had turned into a trap. Britain and NATO now find themselves in a highly fragile position. But do you think they can still regain the initiative? Let us know in the comments. Back at the front, with all contact lost with the forward positions on Bear Island, UK Strategic Command was forced to activate its emergency coastal defense plan. Fighting without reliable information was impossible, so the British decided to transform the Norwegian coastline into a hardened defensive barrier. More than 2,000 Royal Marines stationed at Camp Viking were ordered into brigade-level combat formations, setting up positions along the narrow fjords of Finnmark. Anti-armor teams equipped with NLAW missiles and high-speed Starstreak air defense units locked down likely landing zones, prepared to stop any hostile approach toward the coast. But at exactly 6 o'clock, Russia showed that this traditional defensive thinking was already outdated. Rather than attempting a landing, the Northern Fleet escalated the electronic campaign to an entirely new level. From Ivan Papanin-class icebreakers positioned near the edge of the exclusive economic zone, the Murmansk BN electronic warfare system was activated at full capacity, creating a massive interference dome spanning roughly 5,000 kilometers. The effect was immediate. At Camp Viking headquarters, tactical displays began showing troop positions jumping erratically, with location errors increasing from just a few meters to as much as 15 kilometers. Watchkeeper reconnaissance drones, effectively the eyes of British artillery, lost control almost immediately after takeoff and crashed into snow-covered mountain slopes. Even Lynx reconnaissance vehicles moving inland found their navigation systems disabled, leaving them stranded in whiteout conditions without working digital maps. Refusing to accept a one-sided setback on land, the Royal Navy chose to respond in the environment where Russia felt most secure, the seabed. The multi-role ocean surveillance ship RFA Proteus, one of Britain's newest undersea intelligence assets, entered the area on a mission to locate the Losharik group and help restore the damaged fiber optic link. It deployed a swarm of Cetus Mark 39 unmanned underwater vehicles, autonomous systems operating like electronic tracking hounds at depths of up to 1,000 meters. Instead of relying only on passive sonar, the mission commander made a high-risk decision. He ordered the Cetus drones to activate simultaneous active flank sonar sweeps. Powerful sound pulses cut through the silence of the Arctic Ocean, mapping the seabed in real time. For a moment, the gamble seemed to work. Thermal sensors picked up unusual heat signatures at coordinates 76 degrees 30 minutes north. Sonar imagery then appeared to confirm the presence of 3 Losharik-type mini-nuclear submersibles, along with a support group of drones using robotic arms to interfere with the fiber optic cable. The coordinates were immediately relayed to a Norwegian Air Force P-8A Poseidon anti-submarine aircraft circling overhead. Stingray lightweight torpedoes were prepared for launch. But just as the launch order was about to be given, a serious legal complication emerged. Under UNCLOS Article 95, those submersibles, despite their highly suspicious activity, were registered as scientific research vessels operating within the exclusive economic zone. Any direct strike by the UK could have been interpreted by Moscow as an act of open conflict, potentially triggering a much wider escalation. And that hesitation was exactly the opening Russia had anticipated. The active sonar pulse from the Cetus drones not only exposed the hidden vessels, it also appears to have triggered their automated defense response. The trap was now fully in motion. From the launch ports of the underwater platforms, Shkval 2.0 supercavitating torpedoes burst forward at extreme speed. Their target was not RFA Proteus itself, but the swarm of Cetus drones and the sonar buoys the UK had only just deployed. A chain of thunderous blasts erupted beneath the sea, sending out shockwaves so intense that they completely overwhelmed the Proteus's sensor systems for nearly 3 hours. At the same time, on the surface, a group of Russian-flagged fishing vessels suddenly entered the area and crossed directly through the Norwegian naval formation. But these were no ordinary fishing boats. According to the scenario, they were in fact disguised Vishnya-class signal intelligence ships, broadcasting false distress calls and taking advantage of international maritime law to force Norwegian escort vessels to slow to just 5 knots in order to avoid a potential collision. And then came the next major move, this time from orbit. Russia reportedly activated the low-orbit satellite Cosmos 2553, using low-power laser dazzling systems that temporarily disrupted the vision of Western optical satellites and even affected Starlink coverage. In a matter of moments, NATO found itself in near-total blindness. Undersea visibility was gone, surface movement was restricted, and satellite imagery from above had been severely compromised. In effect, Russia had achieved a sweeping gray zone success without directly engaging NATO troops. Yet just as panic spread through London and Brussels, another player was already in motion. At a depth of 400 meters beneath the permanent ice, the U.S. Navy made its first truly decisive move. The USS Seawolf, widely considered one of the fastest and quietest attack submarines ever built, had already been in the region the entire time. In fact, it had quietly departed its base, slipped through the Bering Strait, and remained hidden in the area for 10 days. To avoid detection, Seawolf relied not on GPS or satellite communications, but on gravimetric navigation and a highly precise inertial guidance system, while using the jagged underside of Arctic ice to scatter hostile sonar. Now it was approaching the Kola Peninsula, the nuclear heart of Russia's northern fleet. But its mission was not to launch a destructive strike. Its mission was psychological pressure. The Seawolf secretly deployed 5 Mk-39 Cetus decoys along with advanced signal emitters. Once activated, these systems began broadcasting simulated acoustic and electromagnetic signatures that closely resembled an entire group of Virginia-class submarines opening their vertical launch tubes. On Russian command screens in Murmansk, dozens of bright red contacts suddenly appeared around the base. The effect was immediate. Confusion surged and pressure inside the Russian command structure intensified. Washington had launched a strategic deception move, forcing Moscow into an uncomfortable choice: continue squeezing British and NATO forces in Norway or pull back immediately to shield its own nuclear core. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, Russia escalated again. It activated the PMK-2 Smart Seabed minefield and sent Tu-160 strategic bombers to deploy active sonar buoys for tracking operations. Meanwhile, the USS Seawolf went completely still beneath the ice. Engines silent, systems minimized. The submarine drifted in total stillness under the frozen ceiling above. If it were detected, it could become the focus of a massive anti-submarine response. With options narrowing, the captain of the USS Seawolf made an extraordinary decision. An ice break-through surfacing maneuver. The engines surged. The 9,000-ton submarine drove upward at maximum force, its reinforced bow smashing through 3 meters of solid ice. Then, in one of the most dramatic moments of the operation, the USS Seawolf rose through the frozen surface and emerged directly in the middle of the Russian reconnaissance formation, at a distance of less than 400 meters. Immediately, its vertical launch system hatches opened, revealing up to 50 Tomahawk missiles inside. It was the clearest possible signal. The United States now had the ability to wipe out the surrounding fleet within moments. Across an open international channel, the calm voice of the American captain declared freedom of navigation and warned that any further hostile action would trigger a response. Then came 15 minutes of extreme tension. The Russian light reconnaissance ships were left in a deeply vulnerable position, facing the firepower of a nuclear-powered attack submarine at point-blank range. Finally, the order came from Moscow to step back. Russian vessels began turning around and withdrawing toward base. The Murmansk BN jamming system was shut down. Screens at Unit 30 Commando and Camp Viking came back to life. The damaged fiber optic line could now be secured for repairs. But this was no simple triumph. The cost was extremely high. To rescue its British allies, the United States had been forced to reveal one of its most closely guarded strategic assets, the Seawolf, and its ability to operate deep beneath Arctic ice, a capability kept in the shadows for decades. Russia may have lost this round, but it gained something valuable in return: acoustic and tactical data on one of America's most secretive submarines. So while the immediate crisis may have eased, the larger Arctic chess match is only entering its next phase. And with NATO's Arctic Sentry strategy preparing to move forward, the region looks more unstable than ever. So the real question is this: did NATO truly come out ahead? Or was this exactly the outcome Moscow wanted? A way to force the United States to reveal its real capabilities to the world?